back to Raven's Ramblings, Musings of a Southern Witch. I am Raven, and well, maybe one of these days I'm going to think up some funny little tagline to throw on there and stick with it. But today's not that day, and well, shit, tomorrow's not looking real good for it either. So, tonight we are going to talk about empaths. But before we do that, does anybody else collect dead things and bones, or is it just me? Am I the weirdo, or are there other weirdos out there like me? And the reason I ask this is because I got a new bookshelf for my cave, my altar room, and I started not unpacking but unstacking some of my stuff, and I've got an odd amount of bones that I've collected over the last few years. Not to mention the frozen bat that I have in my freezer. Now, all of these things were ethically sourced. I did not kill any of these animals. No one I know killed these animals. They were just bones that were found, or the bat was found dead, which was super strange. But a friend of mine found it and sent me a message. Says, "Hey, uh, you want a bat?" And I was like, "Well, hell yeah, I want a bat." So now I have a bat in my freezer, which my wife thinks is hilariously weird, but that's kind of me, I guess. So let me know. Send me a message on Facebook or Instagram if you hear this, and let me know if you collect bones too, or if maybe I'm just weird. Who knows? Anyway, tonight's topic is going to be the empath's path. Um, so I personally am an empath, and that's something that I have struggled with for many years, and a very dear friend of mine, quite a few years ago now, sat down and talked to me about it. Rindy was phenomenal. She was my guru for all things witchy for a while there, and we talked about different ways to protect myself and what it really meant, and all those kinds of things. So I'm hoping that I can do her lessons justice with y'all. So, what it means to be an empath, okay? It's not just about being sensitive or emotional. It's about absorbing the emotions and pain and vibrations and such of people and spaces around you. Now, you're not just gonna always pick up just on people. You can pick up those vibrations from different items or places, or things like that. Um, some of the different signs is you absorb people's moods, kind of. If you suddenly feel anxious or sad or angry with no, clear reason that something provoked that feeling in you, you may be absorbing that from someone else around you. Um, Crowds and loud spaces, they're going to leave you overwhelmed and drained, and you're going to have to recharge and stuff. Um, a lot of times you can actually feel responsible for the emotions of others because you're feeling that pain and you want to alleviate that pain or that anxiety and stuff. So you kind of take on a responsibility onto yourself. Um, a lot of empaths, me especially, you need solitude to recharge and kind of focus in on yourself and just kind of let everything go quiet for a while. But the problem with that is people unconsciously most of the time feel that you're an empath because they feel that draw of emotions off of themselves, and a lot of times you alleviate some of that emotional distress by drawing it off of them. So they automatically feel a little bit better being around you. So they are going to seek out your company and your emotional support. And that's where boundaries are going to come into play. So if any of these things sounds familiar or be like, oh shit, maybe that's what's been happening when I go to Walmart and everything is just too much, and it's not in your head. Um, it is a gift. It is truly a gift to be able to understand and feel emotions and be able to help people with their emotions. And it's something I personally use at work. I am a nurse, so I work in a hospital setting, and emotions are always high. Now, the department I work in, for the most part, is one of the happier departments. Good things are usually happening, but we say it has the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. So I personally call on my empath self to help patients and family members, navigate what can sometimes be a stressful situation. Even if it is a happy situation, it can still be stressful. So I have to work extra hard on my personal boundaries and be able to leave those things at work or walk away from that and remember my own emotions. Okay? So a lot of times empaths are told they're too sensitive and we need to toughen up and stop overreacting and don't take things so personally, right? So, and that's just because we feel everything so deeply. So we do get a little more emotional about things. We're usually quicker to cry about something sad, or we're quicker to be elated if something amazing has happened. So we we're not too sensitive, okay? We're just tuned in to a different frequency that most people either can't feel or they just ignore, you know. So it's not that something's wrong with us, we just feel things a little bit differently. So, all of those emotions that are around us all the time can lead to things like emotional burnout because we're feeling that 24/7. Even at home, we're feeling the emotions of our family members. We could be feeling the emotions from a TV show we're watching. If we're watching something sad on television, we feel that. Even though we know it's TV, it's not real and all that, but we can empathize with what that would feel like. And there is a difference between being an empath and being empathetic to a situation, true enough. But we feel that empatheticness, is that a word? Eh, you know what I'm saying. We feel that so much more deeply than just the average person. So, emotional burnout is a huge, huge deal, okay? I personally suffered from that for a very long time, and it sent my anxiety through the roof constantly. I was constantly on edge. I couldn't focus, those kinds of things, until I finally figured out a way to turn those things off. And some days it's still hard to do that, but it just depends on the day because it is work. You know, it's not something that just comes automatic. Um, Empaths also struggle to say no to things. because we're kind of people pleasers a lot of times. We want people to feel good or feel happy because those emotions are easier on us than the anxieties or the sadness or the anger. Okay? So we do struggle to say no. Um, Strangely enough, we also attract people who unconsciously can drain us. Those are called energy vampires. Now, the majority have no idea they're doing it. Okay, so it's through no fault of their own. Now, some are purposeful energy vampires, and you're gonna feel that little icky feeling down in your stomach usually when you come across somebody like that. But for the most part, people don't even realize they're doing it, but they do. They just drain your energy to where, like, if they leave your home, you just kind of and just sit in those silent moments trying to recoup a little bit. Um, Sometimes we feel like we're kind of floating off on our own in a way because we don't know where others are ending and we begin because it all flows together. There's no boundary there. So we have to learn to set good boundaries, and one of those boundaries is being able to say no to things. Okay, being like, no, I need a break. I need my alone time to recharge my own social battery. I can't go and do whatever it is that the friends are trying to go and do because I have to take care of me. And you have to be okay with that. And then your friends and family have to be okay with that also. Okay? Because walking this path as an empath, yeah, without those boundaries is kind of like leaving your door open when there's a storm and a tornado coming through. If something's going to come in and it's going to wipe out your living room, if you don't shut that door, close that boundary down. So, some of the completely lost my train of thought. I should probably pay attention to my notes here. some some of the things to help with empath protection. Okay. I personally use crystals. I like crystals. I have always had a strange affinity with rocks, as stupid as that probably sounds. Even as a child, I would see a pretty rock and be like, well, that one needs to come and live with me now. Uh, and they were just rocks. They weren't anything specific, just gravel out the driveway. But now I have, well, I still do that too. I'm not even going to lie. But I do have a lot of different crystals. My favorite crystal is amethyst. I mean, it's purple, right? How could it not be amethyst? And I do have a lot of amethyst in my cave, in my home, that kind of stuff. Now, amethyst is very calming and it's very spiritually grounding, which is very good for empaths. It kind of helps us recharge into ourselves. Okay. Another one is, and I never say these two right. The first one is black tourmaline or tourmaline, depending on who you ask. It absorbs and transmutes negativity. So, personally, I have this particular crystal in the four corners of my property. Okay, that's what I use to set my wards around my home and my yard because it helps me focus to those corners, and it absorbs, it blocks all that negativity and stuff. Okay. um, the other one is I can never say this, labradorite, I believe. It helps to create a magic shield, but it's a little bit more open. So it puts that shield up, but it will still let some of the things in small doses kind of through. Okay, so that one's not my huge favorite, but the amethyst and the tourmaline really are. Now you can carry these around in your pocket. You can wear them as jewelry. You can put them in your windowsills around your home. Like I said, I've got mine buried in the four corners of my property. Um, you can put them in your vehicle, whatever. Anywhere that you're going to be, they can be helping with those boundaries. Some people sleep with them under their pillows because, when we're asleep is when we're the most vulnerable. So it kind of helps with blocking those energies when we're not really awake and conscious enough to consciously do that. Some other things, some anointing oils. You could blend lavender, rosemary, and a little bit of frankincense with just a carrier oil. Put that in a little spray bottle or even in a roller bottle if you wanted. And you could put a little of that on your wrist or spray it in your home or whatever. Okay. So you can use that every day, especially before you leave your house, or if like you have an interview with your boss, or not an interview I guess, but you have a meeting with your boss and you know it's going to be super intense. Dab a little of that behind your ears or on your wrist to kind of help keep that emotionally intense conversation at a lower level, you know for you. Okay. um, when you do these things, especially with the oils, you can have a little affirmation. Something like, uh, my energy is mine, what is not mine shall pass me by. And just keep that affirmation in mind every time you go to do something like that. Another one is, only love may enter my space, all else is returned to the earth. And that's another good affirmation to have. Now, personally, I like a good grounding ritual. Okay, and I know that sounds super intense. Grounding ritual. That sounds very official. It's really not. It's very basic in my world anyway. Okay, so I will go out into my backyard. I will kick my shoes off, and I will put my feet in the grass. Now, if you're like me and you have dogs, I have an 80-pound Shar Pei who shits as big as my Chiweenie. So be careful where you're going. Watch what you're stepping in. Don't be grounding in dog shit. That's just weird. Unless that's your thing, and well, that's still a little weird because that's terrible. So stand barefoot in that grass, and I kind of wiggle my toes to kind of digging down in the dirt and the grass just a little bit, and then I visualize my feet actually having white light come out and connect into the earth. Okay, and I start at the top of my head, and I just kind of bring a white light down my body and push it all down through those little white roots that are coming out of my feet and push it down into the earth, because the earth is it it's the best grounding. Like, it takes everything and just floats it away. Okay. And I do that fairly often, especially when I'm at home by myself and I've kind of gotten into my own head a little too much and I need that little break. I'll just go out there and just take a few deep breaths and just kind of push it all away, and just, if it's not yours, just let it go. And then we're going to have a frozen moment, but that's all right too. So, grounding rituals are really good for empaths. It kind of keeps our brain together. You can stir your morning coffee or tea, stir it clockwise, and speak a simple protection charm, kind of like those affirmations that I went over a while ago. Okay? Um, a lot of people like incense and herbs and stuff, and some of them that are good for grounding is cedar wood, patchouli. Those are amazing grounding herbs. Okay, Just whatever makes you feel calm and collected and all that good stuff. Use something like that. Burn a couple of incense. Burn a nice vanilla candle if that's what makes you feel grounded and relaxed. There's there's no hard and fast rules for this. Remember, this is your craft. So you do what works for you. It doesn't matter if it works for anybody else. It doesn't matter if I've talked about it on here. If you look around and go, you know what? I think I would like to light that cinnamon stick on fire. I think that'd relax me. Well, shit, do it. It's not going to hurt anybody. I mean, it's going to smell pretty, yeah, a lot. It's going to smell a lot. But if that's what works for you, honey, do it. Okay? It's alright. It ain't going to hurt you. Another thing that I've read about, I personally have not mastered this one, is envisioning a cloak or a bubble made of mirrors around you. Okay, now the bubble part I try to do, and that's my go-to one that my friend taught me years ago. But the I heard someone talking about it here recently, is think of it as made of mirrors. So the inner part of it is like the back side of a mirror, so it's kind of protection you, but that outer part is that shiny part, reflective part of the mirror, so anything that's coming at you is going to hit that and bounce right off and just float away and let be somebody else's problem. Okay. So with that, uh, harsh energies directed at you are going to get that reflected and get bounced off, but you can still let loving energies in. Okay, you can kind of what is the word I'm looking for? Program it. Sure, we'll go with program it. You can program it to kind of let through what you want, but block out all those things you don't want. It's kind of like a sorting feature kind of thing. Okay, so the bubble that I use personally is kind of like the quintessential bubble. It's got that shimmery surface. It looks like a soap bubble, but it's hard. It's not gonna let anything through that I don't want through. Now I can still see through it. I can lessen the thickness of that bubble if I'm wanting to feel more emotion, or I can thicken that bubble up and let less in. And that's what I personally use. These kinds of things like the bubbles and the bubble of mirrors are really good for like crowded events, workplaces where your emotions are super high, because you can kind of hold that bubble and that light around you all the time. I have to, or I would just damn near go insane. But some other stuff you can do, you can put up wards like what I was talking about that I have for my house. I put that black tourmaline in the four corners, and then probably probably once a quarter, sometimes more often, just depending on how the energy feels. I actually walk my property line and sprinkle out an actual salt perimeter. Um, so I use sea salt. I also have, what all do I put in there? Cinnamon in there for prosperity. I have juniper berries. I have bay leaves. I have a little bit of Florida water, some black salt, that kind of stuff. And I sprinkle that all the way around my home and my property when I'm resetting my wards. Some people do that. Uh, I mean, I do that. Maybe, once again, maybe I'm the damn weirdo. I don't know. Some people will just place a jar of black salt at their entryway, like at their front door. And they have that salt there. The black salt's going to absorb all that negative energy that's trying to come in. And then you can always toss it away or keep it or whatever. But I also sprinkle my warding salt mix across my entryway. So if you come to my house and look down to go across my threshold and my front door, there's going to be a little salt line there. And I have one on my front door and one on my sliding back door because those are points of entry. And I want to have that extra protection on those. Some people hang protection sigils near their door. That could be one that you've drawn out yourself. Some people put pentagrams up. I personally have a key above my entry and sliding back door. And that's my protection symbol is a key because I'm locking out all those things I don't want in my home. I know. Simple, right? Excuse me. You could keep different crystals like what we talked about with the amethyst, the selenite ones. Those are those really pretty white ones. They're a little bit iridescent. They're super pretty, and they are really good for cleansing. You can make a protection spell jar and put those by your entryway. So with the protection spell jar, I've actually got a little recipe that I've got written down that we're going to go over in just a minute. Just a basic one. And you could put this in a mason jar or, well, pretty much anything. I prefer glass jars for any kind of jar spell that I do. I have these little teeny tiny ones that I got from the Dollar Tree that I make protection spells for our vehicles and hang them off the mirrors and stuff. And you can do the same thing with this kind of stuff. Okay, so protection stuff like this is just one piece of this puzzle that we have to deal with as an empath. We also have to reclaim ourselves and reclaim our power and not allow everything and everyone to drain us completely. We are not here just for everybody else's well being, okay? We deserve our own space, we deserve our own time, and we deserve our own emotions, okay? So, you don't have to feel everything just because a friend has come to you and they are super upset and it brings you down and you become upset. You don't have to feel that. You can feel empathetic for them and hate the situation that they're in, but you don't have to take all of that and own it for yourself, okay? So you need to ask, these emotions I'm feeling, are these my emotions or am I feeling this from somewhere else? Okay? Okay, I say okay a lot. Y'all got to start messaging me and telling me, hey, dumbass, stop sounding like a crazy person. So, you don't have to feel everything. If you don't want to feel something, shut that door. You don't have to feel it. You are under no obligation to take someone else's emotions onto yourself. You're just not. You're responsible for you and your emotions only. You don't have to take everybody else's, okay? You need to prioritize yourself and recharge time. That is a huge, huge thing when being an empath is time to recharge, whether that be reading or sleeping or whatever recharges you and makes you feel better. You get to do those things and you don't have to feel guilty about them, and you don't let anybody else make you feel guilty, okay? You have to take care of yourself, period. So prioritize that, you know. That's a huge, huge, huge thing. Okay? Learn to say no. No. That is a very important one. And also understand that looking at someone and saying no, that's a complete sentence. Okay? You don't have to explain yourself. No is a complete sentence when it comes to prioritizing yourself and setting those boundaries. Period. Okay? That's a big one. I'm still working on that one on occasion because when my wife comes at me and says, blah, 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 will you, blah, 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 yeah, fine. I'm tired and my brain hurts and I've had too much for today, but I'm gonna do it because I love you. And it's a little iffier when it's your spouse, true enough. But we still have to sometimes put that foot down and learn to say no. And you don't have to explain yourself. Now, you may have to explain to your spouse why you're saying no, but anybody outside of that, mm-mm, no is a full sentence. Period. So, find something creative to do, something creative that helps you to recharge. Whether, like I said, reading or sleeping, some kind of art. And when it comes to art, you don't have to be good at it, okay, for it to recharge you. I have a sketch pad. Now, I can't draw a damn stick figure to save my life, but I have a sketch pad. I also have colored pencils and colored pens and stickers and all kinds of craziness. Because making that terrible art, because let me tell you, it's bad. But it makes me feel good. You know, I can, if I'm angry or upset about something, I can draw something dark and now, granted, it doesn't look like much of anything but a bunch of colors splayed together sometimes. That's alright. I'm not putting it in some contest. I'm doing it to clear my brain. So, even if you're not good at the art, do it. You know, get out there with some clay and mold that in. Make you a lopsided cup or something, or a bowl, or a change holder or something. Just something to kind of recharge your brain. Working with your hands is very good for the soul, honestly. You know, maybe baking bread is what makes you feel good. Get in the kitchen and bake some damn bread then. Bread's easy. There's like 3 ingredients. Super simple. Make some tasty bread. And then, bonus, you got bread afterwards. Fresh bread. And there's not much better in this world than fresh bread. So, find those creative outlets. You know, do arts and crafts. Even if it's shit, just macaroni artwork. Do something. You know, read a good book. Read trash novels. You know, anything to turn your brain off. It's not going to hurt anybody, but it's going to recharge your batteries. And that's what matters. So, we've talked about, you know, what it feels like. We've talked about some protection stuff and some creative outlets for recharging. So, now we're going to look at a very small, very simple protection spell. I've got 2 of them, actually. So, a little short one, and you can do this daily. Okay. It's called Circle of Self. You're going to need a white candle, and then a crystal that's, you know, going to help to block those energies, or even if it's just a crystal that makes you feel good. Like, mine's probably going to be an amethyst, because, well, I can turn my head and see 4 right now. Because I like purple. Don't judge me. So, you're going to take your white candle, you're going to light it, hold that crystal to your chest, and you're going to speak these words. Within this light, I stand alone. My heart, my soul, my sacred home. What's not mine, I cast away. I claim my peace, my path, my day. And then you're going to let your candle burn for a few minutes. Feel yourself filling with just your light, with your emotions. Just being in you. Okay? And then you can just snuff your candle out, put that crystal in your pocket or your purse or whatever and go about your day. And know that that is helping to protect you from all that extra crap out there that nobody wants or needs. So that's a super simple one. Another one I've got here is just a simple protection jar. Now this one could be used just as a general protection jar, but I don't see why you couldn't use it for an emotional protection jar too. So get you a little small jar. You're going to need some black salt, some rosemary, a garlic peel, and some obsidian. Now, not everybody has obsidian. I do. I think I have almost as much obsidian as I do amethyst. So, But even if you don't, you can still do it with just the salt and the rosemary and the garlic peel. Okay, the obsidian is just going to give it that extra boost. So you're going to put all those things in a small jar. And then here's the words you would speak over it. Ward my steps and guard my space. No harm may enter this sacred place. Now, once you put that in your jar, seal your jar up. I personally like to take another candle and do like a wax seal around a jar. That's just me. You do not have to do that. That's what I like to do. So there's two very simple protection type spells. One mainly focused on empath stuff, which was that first one, the Circle of Self. And then the protection jar, you could totally use it for emotional protection, but it's also good just as a general protection. Okay? Now, we're getting to the end here. Now, remember, being an empath it's not a curse, but it's also not always a blessing either. Okay? Some of us, those emotions are just too much. And we have to learn to take care of each other. You know, if you see someone, a friend that's struggling, and you can kind of tell that they're struggling, let them vent. But they need to let you vent too. You know, we got to be there for each other. But we don't have to own those emotions of other people. You can listen with love, but you don't have to own it. That's the life lesson for today. So with different tools, little rituals, and being aware of the empathic issues that we have with like setting boundaries and stuff, it can become a great strength. It helps me to connect to my patients better than anything else, I think, in this world. I think it makes me a better nurse. I really do. But it also, I am a match energy person, so if you come at me hot, then I'm coming back hot. So just remember that. So if today's episode spoke to you, share it with someone who might need this reminder about these things. Okay, to protect themselves. Remember, no is a complete sentence. Now, that's going to be it for today. Y'all can always listen to more episodes of Raven's Rambling on Spotify. You are seen, you are protected, and you are never alone. Until next time. What are we going to talk about next time? That's a good question. Probably everyday witchcraft. Let's see if we can bring a little witchiness into our day-to-day lives. What do you think? I think it's a good plan. So, until next time, stay grounded, stay kind, stay magical. Bye.